All right, it's Tuesday night, and we're back with another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. Um, Per usual, we're not on time, but eh, whatever. We just do this for fun. Kind of an interesting weekend. Good weekend for you, not so good for me. Entertaining weekend in Omaha. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I know. And someone was like, "Oh, we don't really need to talk about this weekend. This weekend is one of the better weekends to talk about." I mean, really, other side the fact that your team is still hasn't
Terrible.
figured itself out, and Miami might have been a get right, but they sure did not stay right.
No, they are. You know what? Let's just start with that because we're here. It's our two teams. UMD's defense is so bad. And I know we talked about it on Friday and I was ripping the team. I was ripping the team Saturday in front of my parents too. I'm like, it's it's not a knock on Western Michigan at all. It's not a knock on any team that plays them. It's just how are we so bad? These games should be closer,
Honestly, like
but
your defense wasn't bad, and your offense really wasn't terrible either. You guys penned Western in their own zone for quite a bit. I mean, you guys outshot them 2-1, 44-21 on Friday. Only were able to net two. And really, I mean, both of those were kind of, where one was great freaking passing to finally get the puck behind Cam, and the other one um, wasn't that one a little bit of kind of like a weak goal? I think
yeah, I think that one was a weak goal.
I'm trying to remember which ones were which, but you do score two on Friday. Saturday, I think you what was Saturday score? Weren't they both 5-2? No, one was.
No,
You got one
we
on
only scored
Saturday
one.
against
Yeah.
Hampton. Yeah, you
Yeah.
scored the first one on Saturday, actually, I think. But
Yeah, we did score because we were up 1-0 and it was like, oh, hey, here we go. And then it was kind of like the wild game against Winnipeg last night where score the first one and then it's like,
Friday was also like a weird. I mean, both games were weird in their own right, and I feel like the don't want to do what I'm about to do because I feel like we always do what I'm about to do. I didn't understand the refing. Like the first two calls of the game are majors and game misconducts.
I think the
And
thing is
and
we don't want to do it because we shouldn't have to do it because there should be some consistency throughout the league.
and really, I mean, okay, if you're calling slew footing, I think by definition in the rule book it has to be a major and a game. It just to me, and it could be the Western bias, whatever. I don't see the slew footing. In fact, to me, it looked like Nearing made every attempt to not slew foot and just pulled him down, and I would have been just like it. To me, it would have been a 2 minutes for holding. Like it wasn't really technically a trip. There wasn't foot to foot contact. He was literally pulling his leg away from the body as opposed to putting it through the lower half and pulling the top half down. He just kind of grabbed the back of the jersey and pulled it down, and pulled the Duluth player down. They review it. They say it's slew footing, a major, and a game misconduct. The next hit, contact to the head, 5 in a game. Like both of those calls didn't need to be majors and games, in my opinion. And then we had, and I think the Pierce one for UMD. I think he literally the only thing he makes contact with might have been the head. I don't remember. I'd have to go through the video to see. But it just again looked like, or no, that was the cross check. I think that was the cross check one.
I'm trying to remember which one was
I
which.
think Saturday was the shoulder to like the chin as they're both trying to play the puck, and the Duluth player makes contact with nothing but the Western player's like chin. And then the second one, the one on you guys was the one we were arguing about the head and neck area because of where the
Y-
cross check technically hit him.
Yeah.
And again, to me, like I don't know, they just seemed like they were. It was weird because they went way heavy, throwing out games game misconduct, and then they wouldn't call anything kind of close or ticky tack.
Yeah, there's no, and I mean, yeah, you're gonna have the human element, of course, but
But there was no
I
middle ground. They were on either ends of the
I
freaking
I
Mississippi River.
I just don't understand it. I know they do go through rules and everything. Start of the year, they have meetings after whatever, but I just can't trust what Heather told us when what you're watching on the ice is so inconsistent week to week. And it's the same thing that happened. I mean, it happens all over the place, but it happened in the WCHA at the end of the WCHA. And there was one, Tim Shepard, he was the worst. Uh, and then you get the NCHC, and there's a lot of former WCHA teams there. And I think a lot of the former referees just ended up moving to that conference because it's convenient for most of them. Like they worked with what, six of the eight teams basically, before Arizona State joined. So I don't know. It's just frustrating when there's no standard, but you hear about it in the NFL, you hear about it in the NBA. There's the strike zones and stuff in baseball. It's never going to be perfect, but I think hockey is the one sport where it's usually pretty cut and dry with what you're calling.
Well, I mean,
And
as a spectator in football, a lot of the time you get, but you don't even get this if you're at home in the NCHC. Like if you're at home during a football game, you get the broadcasters talking about it, you get the replay showing like what they're looking at, and then you sometimes you get like, oh, let's bring in former referee or former executive of officiating, like to really
yeah,
break it down, depending
Gene
on what network
Steratore and whatever. Yeah.
depending on what
Whoever.
network it's on, you get one of like three dudes to tell you. But there's none of that. All they do is they make a little announcement like this is who the penalty's on, and it's 2 minutes, and that's all you get. Even if you're listening to a broadcast, whether it's on the radio, on the TV, it's speculation. I mean, how many times have the announcers been completely off as to what they're reviewing or looking at, and then be like, oh, okay, nope, yep, we were not even looking at the right review replays here in our booth. They were looking at something completely different.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been driving up north or doing whatever and listening to Bruce on the radio, and he's like, I literally have no idea what's going on because they don't tell us anything. He, he is so confused, and I think the big part of that is he gets frustrated because he can't convey what's going on to the audience, and that's what he wants to do. And so then he knows the audience members are getting frustrated because we have no clue. And so that there's two gaps in the story of
Yeah,
what's going on. And the refs are like, yep, we did this. That's why I at least like, NFL, they kind of they try to tell you, they do a pretty good job. NBA has gotten better on that. NHL, they still don't, they announce the penalties, but they don't announce, like, well, I guess I mean, they do challenging for offside or
yeah.
whatever, but
The previous play is
yeah,
under review for potential uh, incomplete pass or something.
yeah, there's just a lot missing, and um, I know we don't like to harp on it, but we shouldn't have to harp on it. That's the main point is there is something systematically wrong, and I've done it. It's not easy. You do miss things. It's not a perfect science. Nobody's robots. We can't see everything. Um, but there should be a little bit more consistency. I think MLB has. their threshold is 94, 95% of the calls right behind home plate. And I think hockey should include some of that because a trip is a trip, a hook is a hook. And if you're handing out majors and games when they change the rule that you don't have to give a game, you should look at those referees and be like, what are you doing? And then look at all the other calls that they missed and reprimand them.
I think there was one
Uh,
in another game too. I think it might have been the Denver Arizona State game. I think they gave another game misconduct to somebody that it was like I don't even understand that one. But there were a lot this weekend. There were a lot of dudes kicked out of games.
well, I mean the Omaha thing that you sent. I
Oh
guess we
yeah,
can move on to that.
yeah.
I
A
mean,
hundred and well, I mean, it was 110 minutes of penalties on one play because 10 or 100 minutes of penalties on one play because 10 guys got
yeah,
10-minute game misconducts.
yeah.
It was
It
136 total penalty minutes in that Saturday game.
it reminded me of what was the last year? It was like T'Chuk and somebody else.
Oh
They
yeah,
got
each get
into it,
two
and
minutes
then
for roughing. Everybody else on the ice gets a 10-minute game misconduct.
yeah, like that's exactly where my mind went. It was like everybody else,
Or and all the
every
skaters on
skater.
the ice get a 10-minute game misconduct. So they got 12 minutes of penalties and everyone else got 10 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
classic call, but
even that, like it was mostly pushing and shoving and wrestling. Like I think the fights between Alaska and Omaha resulted in less penalty minutes and there were actual fists being thrown. The altercation between Western and Denver last year had more physicality and less was awarded in penalties. Um
yeah,
like it
this
just
one
feels like
it
they're
looked like
trying to
they just looked like they were trying to love each other, maybe kiss each other. I don't know what they were doing. There was nothing there that really. It's like
I mean, maybe I guess like because they didn't stop immediately, and it wasn't so much a game misconduct for the actual tussling. It was more a game misconduct for failure to obey an official, or some regards. But like again, I mean, we'll never know what the actual call was, but just based on like what we're seeing, like again, it seemed like a situation where they're trying to go harsh with the penalties in order to potentially prevent something down the road, but they're letting the smaller stuff go that builds to these big altercations, and then it's like, well, what's the payoff here? We're not getting anything because we don't understand the officiating.
it's failure to control the game, and I think the reason they did that with everybody going after each other was we screwed up. We failed to control this game early on. Now this is happening. We don't want it to continue to escalate because even though they're just wrestling, there's a likelihood that these two lines are going to end up on the ice, kind of like was it the Rangers and Flyers or somebody
Yeah,
where they started the game with just a full-on line brawl.
I mean that's happened a
Um,
few times because there was also the one with I think it was Vancouver and somebody, and that maybe that's the one you're thinking of because Torts was the coach for Vancouver
yeah,
at the time, I believe.
no, he was the Rangers coach at that time.
It was
I don't
after. It
think
was
Torts.
after that. It was after he got fired by the Rangers. It was the. He was. I'm pretty sure it was with Vancouver, and then like he tried. One of them tried going into the other locker room.
I know that was Torts, but um, now I'm gonna look up. I don't think he ever coached Vancouver, but I could be wrong.
Well, then he was the coach of the other team, but
Oh, he did coach Vancouver. Uh, he was
yeah,
Rangers,
it was
Lightning,
Vancouver and
Canucks, and
Flames.
Columbus.
It was Canucks and Flames.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, where it was like
Because like the I think
they
he
submitted their lineup card
yeah,
and
and then
it
the
was the
Vancouver or
all the
the
goons
Flames
in.
coach had all the goons out there. So Torts instead of like being a responsible human being and just putting out his normal line and quick shifting them or whatever, winning the face off and shifting, was like, no, we'll throw ours out there too. And then
Yep.
the Flames coach got pissed that he actually sent his goons out there too, and was like, well, you sent yours out there for, and then it just became like a pissing contest of who was the bigger moron. And it was like, oh, I didn't know what was gonna happen when I sent my guys out there, and then he sent his guys out there. Who could have guessed?
And the thing was, it's like I will defend. Was, was Vancouver the? I think Vancouver was the home team,
Yeah, Vancouver was the home team. They had last change,
and so
which is why again it was just as stupid that
they.
he put his line match. Well, I mean, I guess if you're depending on
But
how you're matching
I
lines
mean,
anyway.
I don't necessarily like torts, but when you see the lineup card submitted on who's the starting line, and then you go do that, and the Calgary coach is like, I didn't know what was going to happen. What did you think was going to happen when you put every single guy that is known for fighting on your team
Yeah,
out there?
yeah.
Like, it's beyond me. But I think what in that Omaha, Miami, they were just trying to, they knew if they let them go, it was going to escalate further and somebody could get hurt because they didn't do what they were supposed to, and it was an overreaction because they let it build up. And so now they're like, okay, everybody just off the ice, go timeout, and they treated them like children because of their mistake.
Yeah.
And you know that they're not going to get any sort of repercussions for losing control of that game
Oh,
because anyone with common sense knows that the only reason those things really happen is like the Vancouver Calgary one is an exception to the rule. The only time things like that escalate that late in a game is because the referees didn't control it.
yeah. There was stuff going on after every whistle before that you probably could have called roughing or something previously, or you missed a call when there was a slash or a hook and a guy got tired of it, or someone crashed in the net a little too aggressively, and you could have put a pause to it sooner, and they don't. It's always been
And
something annoying.
they were also kind of it was getting close in our series too,
Yeah,
where there it started Saturday it started getting a little feisty, especially early on. It was kind of like they're like, oh, we can get away with this stuff.
yeah, and I mean even after the second major that your team picked up, like it settled down a little bit, but they were still. I don't know. They were still missing stuff that I think players were. Your crowd was definitely taking exception to a lot of missed calls, and again, it's that weird balance of what can you play through and what can you not. Okay, if you don't leave, to me, if someone's making a trip and the skater doesn't fall, like don't call the trip, right? Or
Yeah.
if the puck is within the vicinity of the two guys jostling and no one really has possession of the puck, don't call interference. Like that's
Hmm.
but if a dude launches a shot or dump in and he's smashed two strides later, make the call. It's a late hit. He's playing the dude without the puck. He didn't get there in time. Make the call.
Yeah.
Protect both players in that situation. Set the
Or
standard.
if he veers, I don't even like this in the NHL because they allow it long after the puck is gone, but a couple steps, no, that's interference because the offensive player is going in this line.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the puck. The defender takes two strides this way and pushes him. That's interference.
Yeah. Or kind of the other one that happens all the time is, I guess technically, I mean, it depends on how you're looking at it, but it's the dump in on the blue line. When the guy just gets over the red line, dumps it in, the defensive player makes play, no move to play the puck, and literally just ties up the offensive player. Like
Hmm.
that one's another one where it's like, okay, technically you can't take two steps because you're skating backwards and you're letting the guy skate into you, but you're clearly holding him and you made no attempt to play the puck. Like The puck has
But
been gone, and you let the dude take 2 steps to skate into you without making any attempt to play or motion for the puck.
but by the rule, he is still allowed that space, so he doesn't necessarily have to make an attempt to go play the puck when the puck is by him. Like it's he's in his space. The
I
offensive player comes in.
I get
It,
it. I'm
it's
just saying, like that's one of those weird rules that it's. If you look at it, I think you could call it holding more often than you couldn't, but it is what it is,
and,
and I don't really
and
care either way.
it, it
It works just as often for my team as it does against my team.
it was funny. I'm just thinking about this, just the effort to play the puck. Um, my brother, when he refed, he was he would wave off icings a bunch, and the coaches would yell at him, and he's like, "Your guy's not even making an attempt.
Yeah,
Like he's gliding back because he thinks it's going to be an icing, and he probably could have gotten there if he took a couple of strides." So he would wave it off, and the coaches would yell at him and be like, "No, I'm sorry, he didn't try." Like I and again, that's by the rule. They
yeah.
have to make an attempt. Um, let's see.
Um.
Now that we've gotten off our soapboxes here,
Otherwise, I mean, I thought it was I think we saw that the teams are kind of where we thought they were. You know, Duluth isn't quite up to their normal. Um, Western somehow finds a way every year to do it. The thing with Western this year is just it's not there's outside of Bump, who's the big name on the roster? I really don't know that we have one, and we haven't established one yet.
and I wouldn't even. I mean, the only reason I know Bump is because of his Mr. Hockey.
Yeah, but he was
Um,
supposed to be a pretty highly touted guy coming out, and was originally supposed to go to Vermont. I don't know what happened at the last minute, but something happened there, and he ended up at Western. And he's a pretty highly touted dude, but it seems like it's just a team of role players, and they're all playing their role really well. I mean, I guess Hampton
yeah,
is the big name, but he's only playing half the time right now, and him and Cam both seem to be excelling in their roles. Um, Cam picking up co goalie of the week, which we can talk about here shortly, because as much as I'm glad it's Cam, Isaac Posh is the other one and kind of weird. I think there's a couple goalies I would have put ahead of both of those. And based on the way we've talked about it in the past, I mean, we can jump into it right now. I don't care. You
yeah.
have
Let's just do it. We're just kind of freewheeling right now, so might as well.
Yeah, because I don't think tonight's going to be very long. Reagan's still not super duper happy. Uh, and Paul should join us here shortly. So, um,
Well, that's perfect because I think
but I think you got to
that's
go.
gonna be the main thing.
Honestly, I think it's got to go to the Arizona State goalie, really. But you have two sweeps. Well, I mean, you have one, two,
I mean,
three sweeps,
yeah, technically three,
four,
two,
but three in conference, which we know that the conference
yeah,
ones count for more because technically North Dakota did sweep Robert Morris. First one in
yeah,
overtime, they had some trouble there. Uh, Arizona State sweeps Denver. Um, St. Cloud and Colorado College split.
split.
Omaha sweeps Miami, which anyone could have predicted, and Western sweeps Duluth. Um, but Western played two different goalies, so two wins always beats out one win to me. And again,
Mm,
you could say like they both Hampton and Cam both played equally well. I have Cam gave up 2 goals, Hampton gave up one. Cam did see a ton of shots. Cozy didn't play the full second game on Saturday. He left with like 10 minutes left in the game after the scuffle because there just really wasn't, and Miami was up like 10-1 or 8-1 at that point.
yeah, they ended up winning.
So they gave the backup goalie a few minutes. Uh, the I mean, really, it leaves the Arizona State kid, and the Arizona State kid went in and swept the number one team in the country. One of the most high-powered offense holds them to 2 goals per night under some pretty extreme circumstances, especially at the end of game one on Friday when they pull the goalie trying to tie the game up late, and he made some great saves. To me, it should be the Arizona State goalie.
It should be. I mean, I and the thing is with Friday watching the game, the
Got a visitor, a
the
very unhappy
majority.
visitor. Go ahead, you're good.
Oh boy. Uh, Cam didn't face that, like the shots that he faced were not high quality. They, for the most part they weren't. And he made the saves that he needed to make. It That's the other part where we talked about it when we were watching. Western was getting high quality shots and those rebounds, and Guyon was struggling to contain the rebounds. Cam was just sitting there, shots from the outside, doing whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, this is ho hum type of stuff. Uh, I think, and I'm not the person to say this because I really didn't watch a whole lot of any other game. Uh, I think the people that are picking these need to watch the games a little closer. I mean, if they want to pay me decent salary, I'll watch them more if that's my job and then pick these things. But yeah, you take down the number one team in the country and give up 2 goals a game. You should absolutely be the number one goalie. You should be the goalie of the week, no questions asked.
Yeah, I mean that's my feelings on it.
And
Or I mean, pretty much everything that you just said too.
like Posh, I mean St. Cloud splitting with CC, eh, you know, they lose in overtime on Saturday, gives up 1 goal, gives up 3 on the weekend. Sure, great, but like you said earlier, 2 wins is better than one. That should be the number one cri well, number two criteria. Because if you get a shutout and then you get 2 wins,
Yeah.
those combined.
Come here. Yeah, no, I mean the shutout definitely would put you over the top if it were the
I guess
seriously go
maybe
away. Uh, but at that point, I mean, then you're leaning towards like Cozy. But again, like Cozy didn't finish both games, but he did have the shutout. But again, I think the competition should probably be maybe the top priority.
well, and then but then like well, like Cozy, yeah, like Cozy did get a shutout and he had the two, but yeah, competition that would maybe be third. But Mberko got a shutout too. Again, he didn't have 2 wins.
Yeah, he didn't win Friday, and
I don't know. They just it's just interesting. It's kind of like power rankings in a sense in the pro sports. Like, oh, who did the best? But even this time they don't do who is the best. I ran out of things to talk about and I know you're busy. Um, let's see. What else? Well, we can start getting into it if Paul is going to join, and we already talked about it, but Arizona State over Denver. That's that's one series. I know we talked about it last Tuesday,
yeah,
and Paul was a little apprehensive of what was going to happen, and it was a week ago. I don't remember what I said, but I kind of thought Arizona State might at least get one, if I remember correctly.
I remember saying that I did not feel as though the number one that Denver was toting was as strong as it had been in the past, and that they really hadn't played anybody yet. Even though they did have a couple of top 10 wins, they were at the bottom of the top 10. You know, it was a Wisconsin team that I don't think has been in the top 10 or top 20 since playing Denver. The other one was over, was it Yale or Cornell or something, who hasn't played very many games. Um, but either way, like I didn't feel like
Yeah.
the case for Denver being number one was super strong, and they'd beaten the teams they were supposed to beat. Yes, they'd done it in decisive manner up until that point, but I did feel like they were still kind of weak, and someone could get to them. And Arizona State just happened to do it, and now Denver has to sit on that for 2 weeks before they play Western here in Kalamazoo.
I think it goes to what we were saying that Arizona State is they're kind of proving themselves on where they sit within the NCHC, and it's along the lines of what we thought. Oh, and there he is. Speak of the devil.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Probably not as good as you are there, Mister. My team swept the number one team in the country. I was just saying, I was just reminding Mike that I had said that I didn't feel as though Denver was the strongest number one, and that they had some weaknesses. And Arizona played one hell of a game and exploited those weaknesses. And your goalie deserves to be a goalie of the week in the NCHC, and was kind of robbed there.
I feel like we got Lee Corso here now. Not so fast, my
No,
friend.
no, no, no. It's no, and I take this very, very. If you guys have ever listened, the mistake has happened. It's not Arizona.
Did I say
Well,
it?
it's Arizona State.
Did I not say the state part?
Did not,
You did not.
did
Eh,
not,
eh.
and I cannot let
Yeah,
that go.
No, you're
these
I
are
good.
the
can,
Sun Devils,
Yeah,
not the Wildcats.
yeah.
I said it
Well,
in my mind. It just did not make it out of my mouth. I
and
meant
I
no
can, dude.
disrespect.
No,
No,
dude. You know what?
Arizona
Listen,
State played very well, and again, your goalie deserved to be goaltender of the week over my goaltender and Isaac Posh, who are splitting it this week. I think he got snubbed a little bit there. Uh,
well, I'm gonna look. But the hasn't he rotated his goal? Hasn't Firstweiler? And we had some tape on Firstweiler. Like, or was it this week or last week? Because I know I said I know
it was
I
this
like
week. They got it. They got
yeah.
it after the game against
Um yeah,
Duluth.
usually it's hard to be the goalie of the week when you're only playing one game.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
You know?
that's our whole point.
We believe that a goalie of the week, it should both games should count. If you
Yeah.
have a shutout, that's a point in your behalf. If you're playing the number one team in the country or the top team in the conference, that and you sweep them, or you
Listen,
know that's
and
a notch in on your side. Uh, and really, even though he didn't sweep Denver, I think he played well enough. I mean, he played well enough to win 2 games and a tight one on Friday. His game was better than anything that Lacosi produced against Miami, because we know where Miami's at and what they are, and it's not the same level of competition. And for him to do what he did under those circumstances, it's really kind of a disservice to not name him the goalie of the week. As much as I like seeing that Cam got it or is splitting it with Isaac Posh and those
yeah,
things.
listen, I guess part of that is they don't want to give it to everybody on the same team, but um,
That's definitely. I mean, I'm pretty sure it may have been like a weekend coming up here where only 2 teams are playing, but I'm pretty sure like
yeah,
Western like nearly
no
swept
choice.
like
Yeah.
a week of the NCHC awards, and there's definitely been 2 or 3 from the same university this year. So they could have had the forward of the week and the goaltender of the week, and it would have been just fine.
And I'll say this, I am still a big believer in Denver. We might disagree on that a little bit. Um, they're still the champs until somebody knocks them off. Um, did ASU outplay them this weekend? Yeah. And it's going to be very interesting to watch because, a lot of times, the bully is the bully and I'm not trying to say that Denver's a bully. They're a tremendous team. You don't win 20 plus games in a row. with all of that experience and all of that talent by accident. Okay. Were they due for a fall? Of course, it's 20 plus games in a row. You're going to lose eventually. Did I expect ASU to go up there and sweep? No, and anybody that said they did would be crazy. We had the coach on tonight on our podcast.
That must be nice.
Yeah, must be nice. Must be fucking nice.
It took a lot of work.
Oh,
A
I'm
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
you,
yeah.
a lot of
We're
you,
aware.
I'm
a lot of
aware how
you.
much work it takes.
Um,
Well, I guess I'm not aware of how much work it takes to get him on the pod, but I'm aware of how much work went into attempting to get him on said thing, and did not happen. So there were
and
multiple attempts.
yeah.
So that may or may not be a sour grape situation for me. That I will hold my tongue on and not pass judgment, and congratulate those who were able to accomplish said feat and move on with my life.
Well, listen, I'm not gonna lie. It probably helps a little bit that I'm an alum. It probably doesn't hurt.
Okay, good. I mean,
But either
I'm
way,
just saying when he's here in Kalamazoo, I may be a little more aggressive than I will with other coaches.
really, because that's probably never happened.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And I have a
Well,
prime spot that I could definitely
Mike,
let one rip that he would know about and hear about and see full on.
Mike, it's never happened, right, Mike?
So
He's never
well,
been.
he's actually not that aggressive with coaches. This one, it's like my dating life. You just get ghosted. So, um, yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna meet up. You show up. It wasn't even like the emergency. Oh, my friend's car broke down situation. This was just straight up ghosting. So, yeah, this.
Okay.
I I will strap on the petty pants
Okay.
with extra grudge pockets to hold on to some shit, and then when he's here, I may or
Hey,
may not express myself. Is all I'm saying.
listen, I'm not above holding the odd uh extra emotion, shall we say, towards teams and players and coaches, and so I can't complain when somebody else
The
decides to do it.
the only difference is you're not gonna be painted like Sting, the
Well,
wrestler. I
listen,
mean,
here's the I have been accused of looking like some wrestlers though. When my hair was a little darker anyway.
I think he's got a
A little
reprieve
less
this
gray.
season at least though, because I think we make the trip out there in February or
No.
something.
No. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah,
We
yeah. You guys are Western is at, so
Arizona
you gotta
State
wait a
this
year.
week.
So it'll build
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Wait, it'll
yeah,
build up and build
yeah.
up and
I'll
build
just
up.
I'll just put it in a little box in my closet, and then when I
There you
see
go.
Arizona State at Kalamazoo pop up on the schedule, I'll pull that box out. I'll replay the tapes. I'll build up the anger again, and then I'll
But I mean,
let my
listen,
opinion known.
the he's a confident dude, and you know, and so no coach is gonna say, "Oh, but I expect to lose."
Well, yeah,
But at the same time, there's no way that going up there in the real world, they're saying that the coaches aren't saying it to the players, obviously, but in their own
mhm.
heads are like, "I'll take a split."
Oh, I mean, any coach worth their salt knows that if they can split on the road, they're going to be happy enough.
Right, right. And
So
then, again, once you win on Friday,
then you put the team, especially in this circumstance, you're putting the team on their heels. Denver's going to want to try and push and establish themselves. They're going to want to show that they're the number one team and they deserve to be there. They're the big dog in the NCHC, and new teams got to pay their dues. But
yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I to be honest, like I said,
Arizona State paid in full.
yeah, I believe, I mean, I even asked them tonight. I said, listen, when I was there for the Michigan series, and I watched them play Providence, and I watched them play Northern. Um, and that was to me. I said to him, the team that you guys that left Marquette and went to Colorado Springs was not the same team. They played, they whatever they did in that week that they had off, They realized that KISS hockey is the best hockey.
Hey, I mean, conference game mean more.
They do 1,000%.
Mhm.
You
And
see it in every term of sport. You know, when the non-conference schedule comes out, or in the NFL, the division games, it doesn't matter your record. Look at what,
Yeah,
the
well,
Browns just
just
did to the Steelers, or what, like
I mean
the
the
Bears
Bears
and the
basic
Packers. That was a tight
Bears and
game.
Vikings this
Yeah.
weekend.
right, I mean, and I don't know. I'm sure the way they had the schedule set up, and the fact that ASU and the two Colorado schools have to play each other 4 times this year, um, made a difference in how they set up the schedule. But the first 6 games that ASU has played in conference are teams they played regularly.
Yeah.
They've played Denver regularly. They've played
Mhm.
CC regularly. They've played Omaha regularly. Should I say hi to Brent's mom? Is she still there? Um,
Depends.
uh,
Are you interested
well,
or
I just wanted to say hi just in case. I don't
Yeah,
know.
she
I
was
don't
a
want to be.
very lively
I don't want to be
community member
rude.
last week, and she was very nice.
I don't want to be rude.
But
Uh,
she does not appear to be here tonight.
okay.
no? He
Um,
might have joined us because Wes did reach out to see if he wanted to comment on
The scuffle, the 100 penalty minutes that were
the
accrued
wrestling
between
match,
Omaha and Miami this weekend, or Saturday alone.
the
yeah. I
orgy
mean,
on the ice is kind of what that ended up being.
but
Yeah, I mean
so
Denver's got to sit on that for 2 weeks too.
I
Like,
know. And I'll tell you what. I don't know if you saw any of the post game interview, especially with David Carl. He was pissed.
oh yeah,
He and obviously, no, he's not going to sit there and say ASU got lucky. They play. We know ASU played well. They had 40 shots a game.
yeah.
Denver doesn't give up 40 shots a game.
No, they played well. I mean, they killed penalties really well. They were playing a top, power play team. They're playing a top offense and played really good defense. I watched the end of both of those games. I was messaging you at times, like,
Yeah, and
Well, and
and
that's why I love Carl too. Is he's not in any of these coaches. They're not going to really pull any punches. They're not going to give you that ducky and bunny shit.
no,
It's just
and you could tell. I mean, if they were playing next weekend, I'm just sitting there thinking, as Wes said, we were kind of messaging back. I'm just thinking these guys are lucky they're not playing because they'd be bag skating because they would be friggin' bag skating because they're off and they usually give them a couple of extra days off when they have the week off.
yeah,
You
dude.
know,
I
like
It's
and
weird because like Western's got a big test in Michigan. Like Michigan's still
right,
a good team. It's a top 10 matchup. Michigan's not quite the team they've been in years past. I was telling Mike this. Western's they're a team
what
of role
better?
players right now. There's not a lot of big name guys. Like in years past, you had a couple big name guys both in the conference and who were expected to be high draft or were taken decent and had a legit opportunity at the next level, like Colangelo, Granger, uh,
Ethan,
Frank, names like
Right,
that.
uh,
This one,
Poland.
yeah, this one you had. Well, Pullen kind of made a name for himself in his last year
Yeah,
with the
true.
offensive output he put, and that line with him and Sasson just getting called up to Vancouver. Uh, but it's a bunch of guys who are kind of really role players in the past. Like Kanuba was a guy who would be inserted into the lineup as an extra forward or defenseman, as the case may be when he was needed. Wasn't an everyday guy. He now wears an A on his chest. Washi, he's one of the top offense guys in the country, but he hasn't really been. He's not the first line center. He's a second, third line guy, but he plays really well in the circle and wins a lot of faceoffs and plays well in front of the goaltender and gets tips. Which I mean, tipped in a couple this weekend against
Yeah,
Duluth.
fuck you.
Uh, the biggest name really seems to be either Bump or Hampton Slukinski, the goaltender. And I mean, a goaltender can't score goals often. There's been a rare instance where they have, in the NHL level, but they're not putting up
I can't believe you guys didn't. I can't
points.
believe you didn't mention Wade Allison.
I mean, I would put him. He was definitely a big name, but he hasn't been in that recent. I mean, he's before COVID. There's like a weird
Okay.
pre-COVID, post-COVID thing. And if
Okay.
you're looking at directly like the teams that led to where we're at now, he's too far before it. Like
Okay.
I'm literally talking like the last like maybe 3 years tops, where
No, I'm
Yeah,
not.
the senior class were role guys to an Ethan Frank, a Luke Granger. Colangelo was only here 1 year. Jason Poland, like those guys established themselves. We just don't have those guys yet. And when
by
you
the way,
turn over, when you have 16 new players, you're not going to, there's no big names that anyone's really super attached to right now, other
Yeah.
than
well,
maybe a row or like a
was
bump.
what the hell was that freshman's name? I couldn't think of it this
McAllister
weekend.
only played
Yeah,
1 year.
McAllister.
Yeah,
Yeah,
McAllister came out of nowhere. I mean, he wasn't drafted. He came out of nowhere, signed as a free agent with the Panthers after one season at Western.
yeah, he had
He
like
was
8 billion points in
he was
the
the third part of that.
ECHL.
Yeah, he was part of that third line, or he was the third member of the Poland, Sasson, McAllister line. It was those three, and then Bump kind of filled his spot last year. I mean,
You
and
know,
even he made a name for himself and wasn't like a big name coming in. I mean, he kind of was and wasn't. And I think a lot of teams missed an opportunity on him, and the Panthers found something after watching him play at Western. But again, my point is like the last few years, there's been a guy who's like, okay, this guy's going to be your offensive force. This guy's going to come in, and the coaches are like, this is who we expect to have a good year. This year, it's just we're going to be a team. We need everybody to step up and be a team, and we have a team of players.
well, in that team, um, apparently that's Tim Wash's locker room, and nothing goes on in there that he basically controls the whole thing according to everybody.
Yeah. And I mean,
So,
because there's definitely been an uptick in the defensive play this year, and that's from everybody. That's from the actual D that they have playing, and from the forwards, because they are blocking shots at a tick that they have not blocked in I don't know how long.
and and as far as, and I want to get into it really, before I leave, but um, uh, I'm glad ASU has that 2 weeks off between now and playing Duluth. I'm going to be very curious to see how um, ASU will be a little bit of a favorite,
Oh yeah.
and
I hope they
and
just I hope they shake off the hangover. I hope they have enough time to shake off the hangover and don't get caught, living on that too much of that,
well,
knocking
that's
down
what
the
the
first one high.
well, the coach said he's kind of glad to have next week off,
Yeah.
to get that out of their heads. We know what kind of coach Scott Sandelin is, and I'm sure he's already ripped through that tape to try and figure out how to counter what ASU's been doing. Um, like I said, they were the better team against Denver for at least 5 out of the 6 periods,
Yeah.
even though the games were close. Um, Matt Davis made some really big time saves, especially in the Friday game to keep it a 1 goal game, basically. And ASU could have really folded. When Denver ties the game on Friday night with about 4 minutes to go, they could have really folded in that spot.
Yeah.
They they had already blown like 2 or 3 late leads for the season, including that opening weekend at Air Force. Um, and they could have really just said, not again, and laid down, and they didn't. Um, that's something that was uh, good to see. Um, they are, like I said, they were getting 40 shots a game the last 4 or 5 games. And while it's not always shot volume that matters, um, the more you put the puck on the net and the more you chase the puck down and play that kiss hockey, you have more success. Now, coach did say something like he goes, the goalies we were playing against so far this year going into that Denver series had a 9.46 save percentage against ASU.
Dang.
That may not be their
That's,
individual, but in the games that
yeah,
they,
overall.
I'm like, I'd see 9.46. That's insane.
Yeah.
Um, And so he's kind of glad that they have the week. Yeah, he's glad that they'll have a few. This is a big week. That Duluth series is big because then they go into a break and they get the chance to get the rest of their team healthy. Mostly Cruz Lucius, who is expected to play. They have a series against the development team at the end of December. He's expected to
Mhm.
play in at least one of those games. Then they have their own tournament the next weekend. So he should be in game shape, assuming no relapse by the time they host North Dakota. Um, I also think it's made a difference the fact that even though, and I said to him tonight, they go, coach, not for nothing, but it's had to have seemed like an independent year when you started your season with 10 out of 14 games on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And here's a big difference, and he acknowledged it too. When every game is not life and death, they're all important. But when every game is not life and death, like it was as an independent, you can play more relaxed. You can play more freely because if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the season.
Yeah, I think um god dang it. Literally like um what's the stupid name? The former coach of the Patriots.
Belichick.
Belichick.
Yeah, he literally just brought that up, like talking to Pat McAfee, like the difference between regular season games and postseason games. Postseason games, it's one and done. You have this many plays left in your season, unless you win, and then you have that many plays left in your season again. But in the regular season, you have a game next week that you got to get up for again. Like you got a game the next week. There's a game. If you lose, okay, you got another chance to do it next week. But once you get to those games that really start counting and really mattering, there's only so many opportunities, so many minutes, so many plays that can be made until your season's over. And really, and I think we talked about like the first time you came up, like the difference between Arizona State being in independent and now having a road to the national tournament that is one solidified every year. Like you know what you have to do to get there if you
Right.
want just a shot at it. And it can have a little, it allows you to breathe throughout the year. You're not on edge the whole time because you can't be. Something's gonna break when you're literally playing that way every single weekend.
Every night. And right now, I mean, just look at the standings right now, and and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but right now, ASU tied for second in the league with CC, 10 points. And Miami's down there at the bottom with 1 point. That's an
Well,
insane cushion to make, or even this early in the season,
Yeah.
to make
th-
sure you're not ninth and don't get in that conference tournament.
Yeah. And
it,
Western's sitting at 15 right now.
You're almost, I mean, you can start selling those postseason tickets now at 15 points.
That's so
and
stupid that we have 15 points.
Well, I
that
mean,
that's the same thing though that I'm worried about with UMD is because now we've
one bad weekend.
lost to North Dakota. We've lost to Western. We're not good. And I was gonna go back to what you were saying. Even though Sandlin, we kind of know what coach he is, I think maybe we talked about it on Friday, Wes, when we were doing the watch along. Um, I don't know. We started talking about leashes on coaches, and I think Sandlin, he's been there long enough that he just now has an agreement to go out on his own terms. And yeah, he had recent success with the back-to-backs in 2018, 2019. And honestly, it, as a Vikings fan, I know how well things work out on paper, 2009 New Orleans Saints, but they were on track to win their third national championship and three-peat. These last couple years, it's been no offense and no defense really, and the goaltending he hadn't. I know we talked about it on Tuesday. It hasn't really. He hasn't really built it up, and Wes and I were talking about this earlier. I'm not that worried for Arizona State. Even, I mean, if they're getting 40 shots, 40 plus shots on Denver, that's not good for UMD because Western was beating us with 25 shots, something like Friday's game. They they got outshot a bunch, but it was
But
the quality of the chances.
how
And the
much of that? How much of that is on Gajan as opposed to the guys in front of him?
Friday definitely it was mostly on the guys in front of them. I think Wes can attest to that.
Yeah,
It was it
Well,
was
I mean,
he,
yes,
he
because Western had the opportunity to look for shots. And I feel like there was a couple of times where I said to you, I was like, I wish they would just freaking shoot the damn puck and look for bad bounces, rebounds, anything and everything. Like, quit looking for the perfect shot, even though they were kind of getting it here and there. And your
right.
goalie was able to stop them. But it was really once the game got a little bit more gritty and dirty that Western really started pulling away. But your defense wasn't doing anything to kind of clear them out of those positions either.
it was like if there was a rebound, there was nobody in a maroon jersey around a white jersey.
It also
It
went,
was
every rebound seemed to go to the freaking moon, too, though.
well,
Well,
that is true. And
again,
he is a freshman. But at the same time, it's
There's a tiny
they're
tornado
not
warning
clearing
coming out
anybody
my door.
out. There's they're not covering the guys crashing in for rebounds. They're not doing anything. And then I was excited that at the beginning of the year for the offensive prowess that was coming in from watching high school hockey with the Plant brothers, Shagabe, um, and returners like Pierce and all the guys that we've had. They've done nothing. The
Eh,
only
I wouldn't say that. I think Shagabe and Plant have been your better scorers
they
recently.
have
And
been, but
mm,
again, it's still
I think those are your kind of your two guys going. And wasn't Max hurt at the beginning of the year and they just got him back? Because Zam's been going for a little
yeah,
while. And I
yeah.
think him coming back was
Max
definitely going
just
to help.
I think Max just got back this weekend.
Yeah.
well, and here's the thing that I'll worry about going into that series next week. Um, the press clippings and things going to ASU's head, and maybe and going back to because they haven't done it long enough yet for me to be comfortable with the fact that they'll keep doing it, and doing those little things and staying away from the pretty boy hockey, um, which doesn't win you hockey games.
I feel like
Looks
if
nice.
I feel like if I were either ASU or Denver, I'm not necessarily sure I want this break right now. Like
Uh,
I want to get back on the horse for two completely different reasons. Like if I'm I feel like if I'm Powers, like I want to be able to get back to the game and be like, all right, boys, let's freaking just lock back in. We got another game this weekend. We can't celebrate this win or like we did on Saturday and Sunday. Like that's all you got. Like let's turn
well,
it back in and get back to work
I
type
would
of thing.
agree with you on that, except for the fact that he basically came out and said we're gassed.
But I mean that's life in the NCHC too.
Well, again, because they've played 10 of 14 games on the road.
Yeah.
Three of those weekends in Colorado in that altitude. And this will give them a chance outside of Lucius to get completely healthy for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I
not disagreeing. Like
honestly
I
I
think you
would say
take
TFB.
I mean, really,
Like
yeah. I mean, because it's what next weekend, and then most people are off at least for 2 or 3 weeks into the winter break.
Right.
Um,
Well, the ASU has, those games against Duluth.
yeah,
And
and then the long break because Omaha, St. Cloud, North Dakota, Denver, and Colorado they make up for not playing their conference games early in the season. Well,
right,
Omaha has
ASU has
Lindenwood, but everyone's done by the 14th, and then they have
ASU has
2 weeks off. So,
exhibitions against the development team.
yep, and then
Here's the question I have for you. And granted, this is not as a good a way to leave as last week. Um, but and I had to, and I'm not gonna lie, I've watched that a few times just to watch your expression, Mike. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Western has Michigan and then has to go and play Denver in back-to-back weeks. And then the GLI. Now, I don't know if the GLI is still as big a deal as it used to be. You guys be able to tell me that more than
Yeah, it is.
okay. That's a that's an insane stretch for this time of the season. And there's no and it's not like there's a break between Denver and the GLI, but that's six pretty damn emotional games in a row for Western.
Oh, for sure.
We're gonna find out.
Mm,
I right now I have them as the number 3 team in the country. Think 3, maybe 2. I have to actually look.
hang on, check the
Yes, I
notes.
do. I do my
Check
own
the
power.
notes.
Check the notes.
Good thing you already got your cheaters on, so don't have to worry about that.
Nope, I have them 2 behind Michigan State.
That's honestly, if that ends up being the championship game for the GLI, that's going to be one crazy game for the GLI because it's not going to be like the last time Western played State in the GLI where it wasn't even a match 2 years
But
Because
ago.
again,
yeah, you put up
home,
snowmen
Yeah, we
both
put up
both
dual
games.
snowmen, and Jason Poland
yeah,
had a hat trick in back-to-back nights at the GLI last time Western was there. Western does
you
have a great record in the GLI though.
you've got home and home with Michigan this weekend,
Yep,
and
yep.
and games worthy, of course, of being on some sort of national platform. But
Yep.
you know, got to have 95 billion college basketball games now to go with all the football games.
The
Uh,
Maui Invitational.
um, and then you go and host Denver, which think about that. You got a chance.
That's what I'm saying, man.
The
I don't
chance to
know.
bury, not necessarily bury them in terms of the tournament but bury them in terms of winning the conference title in the regular season. A chance to bury them
So
unless Western falls apart in the second half of the season. And then again, 2 more really emotional games at the GLI. I mean, wow, that's a stretch.
yeah, but I think Western likes those stretches. To be honest, I think Pat Ferschweiler likes those stretches. Also, for whatever reason, we're hitting a point where usually if we've struggled in the year, this is where Western gets hot. So it's weird to see that they're already playing this well, and if they can carry that in through January, they'll be in a really good spot. But I don't know if I'd want Denver this week. Kind of like I was saying with ASU, like they want to just get back on the horse and shake off the losses, and they might come in angrier. Or if they have that extra week to sit there and go through the tape and kind of stew over what got away from them or what they were expected to do, because Western's not going to take Denver lightly. That's a pretty good rivalry, and Western has definitely had the better of Denver kind of recently, and especially if they're a top ranked team.
I mean, if you're Western Michigan, you wanted Denver to play this week.
Because Western put up 14 points in two games against Denver last year. I think it was 7-2 here at home, and then they put up another 7 spot in Denver last year. So they can
Yeah.
score. They know how to score on Denver goalies. But and
Yeah, I
again,
think
like
you're
for the guys on the ice, like these Michigan games, probably there's maybe 3 players, player wise, that have any emotional bearing on playing Michigan, really. And that's going to be Tim Washi.
Yep.
Um, Shingothi, if he's playing, he's still recovering from a concussion from the Bowling Green game. Um, Knubel and Fersh and JJ Crew. Because I don't even think
I don't think Cam
Roeder was
was.
there yet. Cam wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be, it was the GLI before the last one that
well.
Michigan pulled out that created all the
Oh,
animosity. And
please.
then we missed playing them in the regional last year because we both lost.
I have
Or we lost and
I
they won.
lost, and there's so much. I lost so much respect for that program when they did that.
So
So much respect for that
Yep.
program.
But yeah, so all those guys that
And
Michigan
I
kind of cheapened out on and left on, there maybe there's two guys left. It'd be the fifth year seniors that were here when that happened. Um, so other than it just being a rivalry for the fans and the universities themselves, and it being a top 10 matchup, like there's not, I don't think that the teams themselves really care too much. Uh, and then the Denver Western Series, like I said, that's conference play, so they're gonna have to get up for that one. That's probably gonna be another top 10, top 5 matchup, depending
huh?
on the results of this weekend. And then the GLI is the GLI, and there's some guys who grow up in the area and they watch that tournament when they're kids and they want to play in it when they get to college. So it carries its own weight and it's its own separate thing. But they got 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks in between Denver and the GLI to get ready for it. And it might be Cam's tournament with Hampton potentially being with Team USA. So he's a guy who's played in it, has won it, was incredible in 2 years ago now, in 2022, when he only allowed like 3 goals across the whole tournament and had some offensive firepower in front of him. So
Yeah, and I think the GLI it still holds weight. It's kind of, I know we've talked about this with you before, Paul, is other than the Bean Pot, there's not a whole lot of tournaments that are out there, and the GLI is kind of the only other one. So it still does hold a lot of weight, and guys want to win it because, well, I mean, hell, it's kind of fun to raise a trophy, ain't it?
Yeah, yeah. I know,
It-
there's no doubt, and there's no doubt.
and the Bean Pot's just been going on since about 1327. Uh,
I want to say the Beanpot and this one are the two longest running holiday,
yeah,
or the longest running college tournaments.
yeah.
And I'll leave you with this little teaser for actually for next year. We've known for a while that ASU is going to host the Icebreaker next year, and I'm just going to quote the coach. It's a Frozen Four worthy 4 teams.
That'll be
Obviously,
fun.
he can't tell us who it is
Yeah,
because I said, "Is this regional worthy?" And he goes, "Frozen Four worthy." I'm like, "Okay,
there we go.
all right,
Well, I was gonna say one other thing
go
completely
quickly."
unhockey related.
Hit him with them good West goodbyes somewhere.
How about your Sun Devils being number 12 in the
I,
college football playoff ranking?
okay, let me put it to you this way. Okay. Um, I was a student there in the 80s. In the time that I was there and emotionally attached to the school, which would be the mid 80s on, was the worst stretch they ever had against that school I affectionately call U of Scum. And so I am, that whole, it's great now, but don't talk to me till after they win that last game because I've seen it before. I've seen it at least 2 times where losing that last game prevented ASU from going to the Rose Bowl. Might have even been 3 times. So I it's great. I love it. Um, but I gotta wait to now if they win this weekend and they go to the Big 12 championship game, that's great. I'll talk about it all you want after this weekend.
Hey, we got those inbreds over to the east of us that have cost us a chance to the Big Ten championship game, even when
So
they're terrible. So, uh, I,
like I
I,
said, if
the
they
only
win this
thing that
weekend,
the only thing that the good people to the east of us are good for are cheese and beer, and I can't have the cheese. So,
well,
You shouldn't have the beer either. But
guys, again, thanks for having me. Wanted, um, whenever I can, whenever you guys want, and I can squeeze it in. Not that I'm trying to say that my schedule is that busy, but again,
yeah.
4:30
4:30 comes early.
comes early, baby. And I will talk to you guys during the week.
Yeah, no, I
Sounds
greatly
good.
appreciate it. Like I said, I wanted to give you a chance to come and brag about your team a
Appreciate it.
little bit. They played well and
Always.
deserved the opportunity. So, actually, we're gonna wrap it up here too because I got an angry baby who Should have been in
Good
bed
luck with
like
that.
3 hours ago and is still awake running around the house somewhere. We have a long drive tomorrow. So
Good luck with that. I'll talk to you guys during the week.
have a good one.
All right, sounds good. See ya.
But yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up. There's been stuff scrolling at the bottom of the screen, the YouTube stuff, the Twitter stuff, the places that you can reach the show. Um, if you zoom in really close, you can get our personal Twitter handles. I'm at painted_Bronco. He's at Maro04, MARROW04. Also, if you go to the Gold Horns and Fight Songs on Twitter, you can see that our personal handles are there too. There's an email address. There's comment boxes. There's a like, subscribe, dislike, whatever. There's YouTube stuff that if you've been on YouTube for any amount of time, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with and you know how to use, and you can choose to or choose not to. I don't care. Do what you want to do. I got a baby to go see, so we're out of here. Bye.
Bye.